The annual Catholic Appeal. 60 years of changing lives in Western Massachusetts. Sharing, teaching, reaching. Respecting the dignity of life at all ages. Our Catholic mission calls us to be Christ in our world right now. Please donate to the annual Catholic Appeal today and help us put faith in action.
Come to Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence for retirees looking for an ideal rental setting to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We offer bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, wellness and entertainment programs, all with a friendly community spirit on beautiful grounds. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Coming up on this edition of Real to Real.
I'm Steve Kiltonic at St. Elizabeth of Hungary Parish in North Adams, where an exhibit on Eucharistic miracles is on display.
Prayer services held for healing and reconciliation in the wake of the sex abuse crisis. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the story coming up.
And Brother Michael Duffy combines love for God and love for neighbor in one fulfilling ministry. These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Real to Real. Hello and welcome to Real as we begin Holy Week and the holiest days in Christendom. The Easter Triduum begins with Holy Thursday and commemoration of the Last Supper. Over the centuries, miracles of Jesus' presence in the Eucharist have been documented, and for the first time, a Vatican-sanctioned exhibit devoted to these miracles has come to Western Massachusetts, on display at St. Elizabeth of Hungary Parish in North Adams. The inspiration behind the Eucharistic miracles of the world, a teenage boy from Milan, Italy, who unfortunately died before he could see his dream come to fruition in Catholic parishes around the globe. Steve Kiltonic tells us more.
On April 6th, the Vatican International Exhibition of the Eucharistic Miracles of the World went on display at St. Elizabeth of Hungary Parish in North Adams. This is the first time it has been seen in Western Massachusetts, having already visited over 3,000 parishes around the globe. It made its way to the city of Steeples through the efforts of parishioner and religious education teacher Debbie Pickering. Some of her confirmation students expressed doubt that Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist, and Pickering wanted to do something to make them believe. After some research, she found out about the exhibition online.
It got me thinking that this would be a very important thing to bring to our parish, and especially for the Children in Our Faith Formation program, to see examples of these miracles that show that Jesus truly is present in the Eucharist even when we don't see it.
The exhibit includes 153 panels that depict the 152 Eucharistic miracles that have occurred throughout the world in over 20 countries. The panels allow the viewer to virtually visit the places where the miracles have taken place. The exhibition is available free of charge for anyone to download the photographs, historical descriptions, and maps from a DVD. Fortunately for St. Elizabeth's, a Tewksbury Mass couple had already created the posters and stands and were happy to let Pickering borrow the material. They went another step further and drove the posters up to North Adams to set it up in the parish hall gym. The brainchild behind the exhibition was a young boy from Milan, Italy, Carlos Acutis. Acutis was a typical boy in many respects. He loved sports and animals. In another sense, he was very different. Acutis was extremely religious and devoted at a very young age to Jesus and the Eucharist, saying, "The Eucharist is my highway to heaven." A computer whiz kid, at age 11, Acutis began 3 years of research into the Eucharistic miracles of the world. He did all the programming and developed a website for the material with the ultimate goal to teach the faith to people. Carlos's hope was that
People heard about these miracles, that they would truly believe that Jesus was present in the Eucharist, and that would fill our churches, and people would be lining up to receive Jesus in the Eucharist.
To be always close to Jesus, that's my life plan, Acutis remarked. Unfortunately, his life plan on earth would be short, only 15 years. In 2006, Acutis died from leukemia, never seeing his dream come to fruition fully in Catholic parishes around the world. Carlos's mother took up her son's mission, creating the posters and, since his death, adding more miracles as they were recognized by the Church. Lanciano, Italy, was where the first and oldest miracle took place. In 750 AD, a monastic priest expressed doubt that Jesus was present in the Eucharist.
One day when he was celebrating Mass, when he said the words of consecration, he noticed that the bread changed to flesh and the wine had changed to blood. And he repented right there, and the whole congregation also witnessed it. It was kept on display for centuries, just exposed to the elements.
In the 1970s, the samples were extensively examined scientifically.
They discovered that the flesh was true human flesh, specifically human heart tissue. The blood was human blood of the AB blood type, which has been shown to be on the Shroud of Turin. Every time they test them, have the characteristics as if they were drawn fresh from a live human being that day. So they can't explain that either.
In most of the documented miracles, the Eucharist has been turned into real flesh and blood. The miracles on display are categorized by countries. Italy has the most miracles, 29. While Spain and France have also miracles in double figures, while countries like Croatia, Portugal, Colombia, and India have just one. In India, Jesus' face appeared on the Eucharist during adoration. In addition, there are stories of saints who have lived for many years by consuming only the consecrated Eucharist, as well as other saints' miraculous experience with Holy Communion. Animals also recognized Jesus' presence in the Eucharist when humans didn't.
This peasant was using cattle to pull the plow, and they stopped in their tracks, and they refused to move no matter what he did. And then they knelt down on the ground, and the peasant saw that there was a glowing light. And when he went to check out what the light was, he found the pyx with the consecrated host.
In his Sunday homily, Father Dariusz Rudarski spoke about a more recent miracle that took place in Poland, where a dropped host turned into flesh.
The histopathological tissue fragments were found containing fragmented parts of the skeletal muscle, most similar to the heart muscle.
It is a beautiful phenomenon to experience and for us to learn because it deepens our faith.
Father Rudarski said each phenomenon is investigated by a local diocesan committee established by a bishop. Based on the scientific evidence, it is presented to the bishop and the Vatican for review before being declared a miracle. Many of the miracle's churches become Eucharistic sanctuaries or shrines of the Eucharistic miracle once approved by the Church.
At times, people have to be jolted with reality, and I think the Eucharistic miracles emphasize the need, or perhaps it's a beautiful witness that this is a beautiful reality, it's a mystery, and it's still part of who we are and what we are.
Rudarski and Pickering hope people make the effort to stop by the exhibit and learn something about their Catholic faith.
I think God gives us these miracles to increase everyone's faith. I think they're very inspiring, and it gives you a different perspective. When you go to Mass, you're really receiving Jesus in the Eucharist. Even if it does not look like flesh, does not look like blood, it truly is. Even though we can't see it, that's what God tells us, and that's the truth.
For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
And the last day to view the exhibit is tomorrow, Sunday, April 14th, from 8:30 a.m. until 7 p.m. Carlo Acutis is already on the path to sainthood. A petition for the canonization cause was approved in 2013, and last year, Pope Francis confirmed his life of heroic virtue, naming him venerable. Acutis is being called the patron of computer programmers and the Internet. Meanwhile, 2 prayer services were held last weekend for healing and reconciliation in response to the clergy sexual abuse crisis. People gathered in both Pittsfield and Springfield to pray for victims and their families. Caroline McGrath has more.
People gathered at St. Michael's Cathedral in Springfield for a solemn prayer service for healing and reconciliation in response to the clergy sex abuse crisis. The prayer service was a follow-up to 4 listening and dialogue sessions held in February and March.
As we contemplate the need for our church to be healed and to bring healing, I felt it was important that we come together today in prayer, because Jesus always asks us to come to Him in prayer whenever we have a need. So today we come to Him in prayer with supplication, with asking for healing for the victims of clergy sexual abuse, healing for our church, and healing for ourselves, that indeed we may never let this happen again.
The prayer service began with a lighting of candles. The prayer of the faithful included petitions for all survivors of abuse and their families and friends. After the news broke last August of the Pennsylvania grand jury investigation into clergy sexual abuse and the sexual abuse allegations against the now defrocked Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, Bishop Rozansky pledged prayer and dialogue. In addition to the listening sessions, parishes were also asked to open their doors for a day of prayer for healing on the first Monday of Lent, March 11th. Kathy Picard is a sexual abuse survivor and now a victim's advocate. She helped plan the prayer service.
So I was sexually abused from 7 till I was 17 years old by my stepfather.
Picard shares her story in her book, Life with My Idiot Family. She grew up Catholic and says she certainly understands why people have fallen away from the church. But she says she's hoping to encourage people to go back when they're ready. Picard says while she also has been away from the church, she'd like to come back.
As a survivor, as an advocate of over 17 years, I go out and speak to whoever I can to help them, to give them the faith and to be a leader, to go out and go back to church. You know, it's not just priests that abuse, it's other people.
John Hale, a father of 4, is the chairman of the Diocesan Review Board. Hale is a retired captain from the Hampden County Sheriff's Department and served in the U.S. Air Force. He's also a member of St. Patrick's Parish in South Hadley.
We should have zero tolerance, especially when it comes to children, the most precious things on the planet, okay? And anybody that hurts a little child, we should have zero tolerance for it. And that's another thing I like about the bishop. That's the message that he puts across.
A simultaneous prayer service was held in Berkshire County at St. Joseph's Parish in Pittsfield. Bishop Emeritus Timothy McDonnell delivered the homily.
The actions of those who abuse children have had consequences far beyond anything that might have been imagined. Not only the devastation of individual lives, but the hurt in families, the lifelong pain that so many people are feeling, and the failure of so many shepherds of the flock to protect the lambs.
Lisa Stankiewicz is the Faith Formation Director at St. Agnes in Dalton and helped plan the service.
As I have immediate family who were impacted by the abuse back in the 60s and 70s, but the pain goes on, it doesn't end. And I know that this act is very meaningful, very powerful, that the church is praying for their healing, praying for their peace. So it meant a lot to me to be here.
The bishop said in his homily he's been asked many times, when will this be over? He says his response is always the same. It will never be over because the church always has to remain vigilant and watchful, protecting children and the most vulnerable among us.
Anybody who is in ministry in the church feels that when one member of the body hurts, we all do hurt. And so certainly in this clergy sexual abuse crisis, we all hurt. For the victims, we hurt. For a church that did not live up to what it was supposed to live up to, and for the need for so much healing.
And so with heavy hearts and hopeful hearts, people continue to pray for victims, putting their trust in Jesus, but acting in His name to love and protect. Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And if you have questions or concerns, we have more information at diospringfield.org or via the special email address reportabuse@diospringfield.org. And still to come on Reel to Reel, Rebecca Drake with the latest on what's coming up in the Catholic Mirror. And I'll introduce you to one religious brother who is making a difference through his ministry to the hungry and homeless. These stories and more are all still to come on Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm your Chalice host, Brother Terrence Scanlon, inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us this Sunday morning. This week we welcome Father Warren Savage and celebrate Palm Sunday. Chalice of Salvation, Your Spiritual Connection, Sunday morning at 10 a.m. on WWLP Springfield 22 News, and coming up next on Fox 23 WXXA.
The Annual Catholic Appeal. 60 years of changing lives in Western Massachusetts. Sharing, teaching, reaching. Respecting the dignity of life at all ages. Our Catholic mission calls us to be Christ in our world right now. Please donate to the Annual Catholic Appeal today and help us put faith in action.
Travel with Catholic Communications in August 2020 for the pilgrimage of the decade as we experience the Oberammergau Passion Play. Join Springfield Bishop Mitchell Rosansky and Father Gary Daly for the spiritual journey to Germany and the village of Oberammergau. Since 1634, this famous play has been performed every 10 years in this quaint alpine village. Our 10-day pilgrimage will begin in Brussels, Belgium, and continue through Cologne, Heidelberg, Oberammergau, and Munich, Germany. With daily breakfast and dinners included, pilgrims will enjoy daily Mass in many of Germany's brilliant cathedrals and churches, a cruise on the Rhine River, a tour of Cologne's cathedral treasury containing the staff of St. Peter, and a visit to Munich's famous Glockenspiel. Book this incredible opportunity now for $5,439. For more information, go to iobserve.org.
Come to Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence for retirees looking for an ideal rental setting to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We offer bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily Mass, restaurant-style dining, wellness and entertainment programs, all with a friendly community spirit on beautiful grounds. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
At a time when we might expect people to turn away from the faith, there are thousands who enter into the worldwide Catholic Church each year during the Easter Vigil liturgy. In the Springfield Diocese, 100 faith seekers will be welcomed into full communion with the Church this year, and you will meet 2 of them, along with a woman who completed her sacraments just 3 years ago, in the cover story of the April issue of the Catholic Mirror. Another sign of hope in the future of our faith can be found in the words of local priests and seminarians who are sharing the joys and inspirations of their vocations through their responses to a mini survey asking 3 simple questions. Their answers are part of the Year for Vocations celebration in our diocese. In this issue, we also honor Marie Renaud, who has been a production assistant for the Chalice of Salvation TV Mass for the last 50 years. Marie's dedication and loving hospitality was celebrated at a special Mass taping and reception in February. If anyone would have reasons to pack up and leave the church, it would be 85-year-old widow Eileen Maxfield. But the Lee resident has relied on her faith to overcome tragedy and is a very special parish angel profiled in this issue. In other local news, an East Longmeadow parishioner has established the Western Massachusetts chapter of the National Christ Child Society, and the local chapter of Legatus, an international organization of Catholic business owners, is seeking new members. Finally, Bishop Rosansky thanks all who have shared their thoughts, experiences, and recommendations at the recent clergy abuse listening sessions. As the pain and suffering of Christ's Passion fades away at the end of this upcoming Holy Week, we can reflect for a moment in the silence of the empty tomb, and then welcome the risen Savior in the blessed company of both new and longtime parishioners, and continue the journey to God's kingdom together. At the editor's desk, I'm Rebecca Drake.
A relic of St. John Vianney will be visiting the Diocese of Springfield later this month, April 25th through the 28th. The saint, who died in 1859, was a dedicated pastor in France who became known in particular as a confessor, often spending up to 16 hours a day listening to and absolving sins. The Incorrupt Heart of the Saint, on a national tour in the U.S., will be making its way to the Diocese of Springfield for 3 stops. Joining me now to tell us more is Father Michael Wood, co-director of vocations for the diocese. Hello, Father Michael. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you for having me.
So, Father Michael, first of all, this is a very exciting opportunity for the people in the diocese to get a chance to witness, in a very prayerful atmosphere, an incorrupt relic of a saint. What does this mean for people who may not be familiar with the term?
There are many saints within the Church who are incorrupt, whose bodies do not naturally decompose after death. Some of those saints, it's their whole body that's incorrupt. Others, it's a part of them that maybe God wants to show that they used in a special way for His glory. For example, St. Anthony of Padua was a great preacher, and as we saw with his relic coming, his tongue was incorrupt. Now we have the relic of St. John Vianney, the patron of parish priests, coming to visit us. And his heart is incorrupt because that was the instrument God used to have John Vianney love God and love the people that he served as a priest.
So who was St. John Vianney? What does he exemplify?
St. John Vianney exemplifies all the virtues and holiness of particularly a parish priest. He was a priest in France shortly after the French Revolution, and he was known for spending many hours in the confessional, sometimes up to 18 hours a day, and using that sacrament in a special way, allowing God to use that heart that's coming to visit us to give penitents His pardon and peace in a special way. And as a result, John Vianney was named the patron saint of all priests in general, but in specific diocesan priests.
And there will be 3 opportunities for folks to see the relic?
There will. On April 25th, John Vianney's relic will be coming to St. Mary's Parish in Westfield. At 8:30, there'll be a regular parish mass that people are welcome to attend. His relic will be there for prayer throughout the day. The students from the school and some of our other diocesan schools will be coming to join us, and we hope it's a good example for them to think about serving God. And then there'll also be a concelebrated Mass at noon with Bishop Rosansky, in which all the priests of the diocese are invited to come and concelebrate with our bishop as well as the heart of our patron saint.
All right, Father Michael Wood, thanks so much. And if you would like to take part in the veneration, we have all of the details posted at iobserve.org. If you're interested in attending Holy Week, Easter, and Divine Mercy celebrations, we have a link to all parish events at iobserve.org. Brother Michael Duffy could be called an advocate for 3 things: healthcare, education, and faith. This Capuchin Franciscan friar, now the Associate Dean of the Elms College School of Nursing, last year marked 40 years as a religious brother. I sat down recently with Brother Duffy to learn more about what led him to religious life and how his passion for nursing is making a difference in the lives of the homeless in Chicopee. He's served 4 decades now as a Capuchin Franciscan friar, entering from the Archdiocese of Baltimore, where he was born and raised. But Brother Michael Duffy says his parents didn't think it would last.
My parents had a running thing, he'll be home next week, he'll be home next week, he'll be home next week.
In all honesty, Brother Duffy's vocation story is quite unique, for even though he entered the Franciscan community, he always had a passion for education and health care, currently overseeing the Elms College Doctor of Nurse Practitioner program.
I came into the community as a priesthood candidate, and it didn't fit. It wasn't a good fit. And my assigned apostolate, you were allowed to go out once a week in the last half of the novitiate. I was assigned to St. Elizabeth's Special School, as it was called back then, and it had kids with all different types of developmental and emotional problems. And I was working one-on-one with a kid who had an episode, and we were taught how to give them a hug as opposed to restraining them. And a sister came over and with a basin of warm water and some paper towels, and she threw them in the paper, and the paper towels in the water, and between the warm water and him pulling them apart, he fell asleep while I was sitting there on the floor with him. And I realized that I wanted to walk with the people of God as opposed to administer sacraments to the people of God.
So he says he decided to pursue a degree in nursing after he became a brother in the Franciscan community. Brother Duffy received a nursing degree from AIC and served as a nurse while also teaching science at Mater Dolorosa School in Holyoke, eventually going back to school to become a nurse practitioner and finally receiving his doctorate in nursing practice with a specialty in education. As Associate Dean of the School of Nursing now, Brother Duffy says working with students preparing them to be the best at bedside is a very rewarding ministry.
But when you're working with somebody and the light bulb goes off, like you've been talking about it for 2 years, and they finally go, that's what he's talking about, that's the biggest joy.
And equally rewarding, says Brother Duffy, is his work with the homeless community in Chicopee. Twice a week, he and his team do primary care from the Elms Care Van. On Sunday mornings, they head out to a Chicopee Center parking lot to provide care to society's most vulnerable. Also caring for the homeless at Lorraine's Soup Kitchen in Chicopee on Tuesday afternoons. And each December 21st, Brother Duffy brings awareness of the plight of the homeless population when, along with Elms College nursing students, he holds a memorial at the Soup Kitchen, honoring homeless people who have died over the past year.
We pray for those who lost their lives due to homelessness. We pray for them, their families, parents, children, single people, all who live under bridges, in parks, and on riverfronts.
Brother Duffy says in his next project, he hopes to create a care center in Chicopee where the homeless can go to take showers and do laundry. Until then, he will continue to walk with the people of God.
Those who are so poor that they experience homelessness are more likely, 3 to 4 times more likely to die than their housed individuals, 30 years shorter than the average life expectancy.
And along with serving the Diocese of Springfield, Brother Duffy frequently leads mission and service trips for Elms students to Jamaica, the latest one just last month, where nursing students visited with children and cared for the elderly and the sick. His continuous mission to educate the next generation in helping to build a better world. Well, Brother Duffy certainly is one busy guy. Between his nursing students and helping to care for the hungry and the homeless, he definitely is making a difference in the lives of so many people. And for this week, that's Real to Real. Remember, for updates anytime on news involving the Catholic Church, head over to our news and information site, iobserve.org. It's your 24/7 source for accurate news. That's iobserve.org. We also update our Facebook page daily with news of what our reporters are working on, so check that out and like us at Catholic Communication. And before we close, just a reminder that the annual Catholic Appeal is underway throughout our diocese, and we still need to hear from many. If you enjoy this weekly TV program, then please consider making your gift today. There's an easy online donation link at diospringfield.org. That's diospringfield.org, and we thank all who have already responded. And we'll see you next week at this same time for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. Have a great week.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.